Chapter 4. Greek Gods. The ancient Greeks were very religious people. Religion wasn't confined to a certain day of the week or time of celebration, although the Greeks did have special religious holidays and festivals in honor of the gods. Rather, religious rituals were part of everyday life. Greeks always offered part of their meal to the gods. Public meetings, assemblies, and councils all began with a prayer. Before troops went off to battle, their generals sacrificed one or more animals in honor of the gods to bring success to his troops. You may recognize some of the Greek gods from Greek mythology. Our word myth comes from the Greek word mythos. To us, a myth is something that has no basis in fact. To ancient Greeks, a myth was a wonderful story that told about a fundamental truth, whether about the Greek gods or heroes, the natural world, or Greek society. The beginnings of Greek religion are difficult to trace, but by about 900 BCE, the people of ancient Greece were worshiping the pantheon of gods that we still recognize today. Zeus on his throne atop Mount Olympus. While this pantheon of gods was known through the lands of ancient Greece, each polis also had a patron god. This was a special deity that protected the polis and its people. Athena, for instance, was the patron goddess of Athens. Athenians worshipped Athena at special festivals, which included the Panathenaea. This celebration was held every 4 years and was the most important festival. It lasted for 6 days and featured banquets, athletic contests, dancing, and music. The ancient Greeks believed that the entrance to the home of the gods on Mount Olympus was through a gate of clouds. They thought the gods feasted on nectar and ambrosia and meddled in the lives of ancient Greeks living below. Religious holidays. Athens observed about 70 religious holidays each year. Many of these holidays were related to farming. The Eleusinian Mysteries was a holiday that honored Demeter, goddess of the harvest. This celebration lasted for 21 days. Athenian religious holidays were seen not only as a time to honor the gods, but also as a time of rest, since the Athenians didn't have a weekly day off. Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus is the highest peak in Greece, and the ancient Greeks believed that it was the home of the major Greek gods. How could they believe that gods and goddesses lived in a place that was a part of this world? Probably because Mount Olympus, with its steep terrain, was largely inaccessible. Those who did try to climb the mountain discovered that the thin air up high made breathing difficult. This could easily have been interpreted to mean that the mountaintop wasn't meant for mortals. Words to know. Sacrifice, to offer something of value to a god. Worship, to show great devotion and respect, to pray. Pantheon, a group of gods, heroes, or important people all considered collectively. Deity, form of god or higher being. Panathenaea, an Athenian festival held in mid-August celebrating Athena's birthday. Mortal, someone who can die, the opposite of immortal, like gods who cannot die. The Greek gods differ from the gods of other cultures in that they are famous for their interference in the lives of ancient Greek mortals. The gods argued among themselves and often used the people of Greece in their attempts to best another god. They often behaved badly just like humans, acting petty, jealous, and angry. As the stories go, the gods even moved from Mount Olympus to the real world to flirt with mortals or cause troubles. Greek temples. The grand temples of ancient Greece were built more to honor the gods than for use by citizens. People did not come together for services or pray at a temple, the way people worship at a church or temple today. Rather, the citizens of ancient Peleus visited their temples whenever they wanted, to offer a sacrifice to the temple's god or to pray. A temple in ancient Greece was seen as the earthly home of a god, and the Greeks believed that the god visited and spent time in the temple. Legendary Greeks, King Midas. According to legend, Midas was made king of Phrygia by the will of the gods, but he began his life as a peasant boy. He was convinced that money was all important, so when the god Dionysus granted him one wish, King Midas asked that everything he touched be turned to gold. For a while, King Midas reveled in his gold touch. He had to rethink the idea, though, when he became hungry. As he began to eat his meal, it turned to gold. He called for his wine, but it, too, turned to gold. King Midas begged Dionysus to help him be rid of this curse. Dionysus instructed King Midas to wash himself in the river Pactolus to remove the golden spell. Since that day, the banks of the river have been flecked with gold. Temples were also filled with wealth and acted as a kind of storehouse for each polis. Money and valuables were sometimes left at the temple as gifts to the god, while other people used it as a place to store their own valuable items. Surely nobody would dare steal valuables from such a sacred place. Worship. The worship of ancient Greek gods was part of daily life. People worshiped the gods publicly at altars placed outside of temples or privately at the altars common in most ancient Greek households. The two most important aspects of worship were prayer and sacrifice. Greek worshippers prayed in a standing position, hands raised to the heavens. Kneeling and touching the ground was to call on the gods from below, called the underworld. Colonnade, stylobate or paved floor, columns, porch, altar, cella, columns, opisthotomus or back entrance, floor plan of a typical temple. Greeks making a sacrifice to the gods on an altar. The simplest sacrifice made to please a god involved leaving food or wine at an altar. During some rituals, people sacrificed animals. When the Greeks sacrificed an animal, it was with much ceremony. The animal was draped with flowers and sprinkled with barley to make it lower its head. This was seen as submission to its killing. The altar was purified with water. The animal was killed and its blood was drained into a bowl and sprinkled on the altar or over the worshippers. The animal was then cooked and eaten by the worshippers. An animal sacrifice was seen not only as a sacred ritual, but as a rare opportunity to eat meat. While it is common for us to celebrate funerals and weddings in churches or temples, the ancient Greeks did not do this. The head of the household led private ceremonies. At large public ceremonies, the head of state officiated. Oracles. Oracles were usually peasant women who passed messages between gods and humans. People would seek advice from the gods by asking the oracle a question. The answer was usually vague, with many possible interpretations. Words to know. Sacred, something very special, worthy of worship. Altar, a raised table or structure where religious ceremonies take place. Purify, to clean, make something pure. Ritual, a set of formal actions that is repeated in a ceremony. Oracle, a source of wisdom or knowledge. Interpretation, an explanation of the meaning or importance of something. Trance, in a dazed or hypnotized state, unaware of the surroundings. Prophet, someone who claims to be the voice of God or who predicts the future. Prophecy, a prediction of a future event. Know your ancient Greeks. Heracles. Heracles, sometimes called Hercules, was the son of Zeus and Alcmene, a mortal woman. When Heracles was a baby, his jealous stepmother, Hera, tried to kill him by placing a serpent in his cradle. But Heracles was a baby with superhuman strength, and the baby Heracles killed the serpent. Hera's jealous ways finally drove Heracles insane, and he killed his own wife and children. Shamed by his insanity, Heracles asked an oracle how to regain his honor. He was instructed to serve Eurystheus, king of Mycenae, for 12 years. The king wasn't sure what tasks to set for the mighty Heracles, so he consulted Hera. They came up with 12 tasks for Heracles. Known as the 12 labors of Heracles, these tasks included such feats as killing the 9-headed Hydra, who would sprout 2 new heads for every wound. Heracles also had to bring Cerberus, the 3-headed dog of Hades, from the underworld. Heracles completed his tasks and was finally free to return to Thebes, where he married Deianira. Upon his death, Heracles was taken to Mount Olympus and became immortal. Many temples in ancient Greece had oracles. The most famous of them was the Temple of Apollo at Delphi in central Greece. The 3 oracles at Delphi were all over the age of 50, which was considered quite old at that time. When an oracle was called upon, she first purified herself in a sacred spring. Then she drank water from a different spring near the temple. Seated on a 3-legged stool that was positioned over a crack in the rock floor, the oracle went into a trance-like state. She may have chewed or inhaled the smoke of bay leaves or taken drugs to go into the trance. Some historians think that the crack in the rock gave off a kind of gas that induced a trance-like state. In this state, the oracle uttered words that seemed to come directly from the gods. A male prophet would interpret the oracle's prophecy, sometimes in a verse that left more questions than answers. Question: where did the ancient Greeks believe the gods lived and visited? Most of the questions people asked the oracles were of a personal nature, though on occasion a statesman might come for guidance in creating laws or going to war. In 480 BCE, with the Persians invading mainland Greece, Athenian leaders consulted the oracle at Delphi. They were told their only hope was the defense provided by a wooden wall. Some people thought that they should build walls of wood around Athens, but their leader, Themistocles, guessed that the oracle was referring to a fleet of wooden ships. With the Greek navy, he lured the Persians into a narrow area between the islands of Salamis and the port of Piraeus. Despite being outnumbered, the Greeks crushed the Persians in the Battle of Salamis, the first great naval battle in recorded history. In ancient times, Delphi was considered to be the center of the world because of the presence of the oracle at the temple of Apollo. The gods walk among us. Ancient Greek culture had dozens of gods and godlike creatures. The major gods who resided on Mount Olympus were a crucial part of ancient Greek culture. Other divine beings were called demigods. They were half mortal, half god, and were born of unions between the gods and humans. Some of the demigods are Heracles or Hercules, Alexander the Great, and Achilles. Selling shoes with Greek gods. Nike is the Greek goddess who symbolized triumph and victory. The ancient Greeks counted on her to preside over both athletic and military contests. Nike is one of the few goddesses who is depicted with wings. Can you imagine why a shoe company might want to use her name? The Nike of Samothrace. The important Greek gods are Gaia, the earth goddess married to Uranus. Uranus, the sky god, had many children with Gaia, including the 12 Titans. Kronos, the leader of the Titans, gained power by defeating his father Uranus. Kronos worried that his children would take power away from him, so he ate his children to protect his position. All of his children, that is, except for Zeus, who was saved from this fate by his fast-thinking mother, Rhea. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Apollo, the sun god, also god of music, light, and truth. Each day, Apollo drove a chariot that pulled the sun across the sky. Ares, the god of war. Artemis, goddess of the hunt and the moon, twin sister of Apollo. Athena, goddess of wisdom, cities, handicrafts, and agriculture. She sprang from Zeus's forehead, fully grown, so she didn't have a mother. Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Hades, the lord of the underworld and the god of wealth, due to all the precious metals that come from underground. Kronos. Hephaestus, god of fire and metalworking. Hera, wife of Zeus, the protector of women and marriage. Hermes, the god of thieves and commerce. He was the fastest of the gods and responsible for guiding the dead to the underworld. Hestia, goddess of the hearth. Nike, the goddess of victory. Poseidon, the god of the sea. He was extremely important to the Greeks since they traveled across the Aegean Sea all the time. Zeus, god of the earth and heavens and the rain. He became the leader of the Olympians after he defeated his father, Kronos, and banished the Titans. Unlike Christianity, which has the Bible, and Islam, which has the Quran, Greek religion had no single text that believers could read and follow. Young Greeks learned about the gods by listening to stories, and when they grew up, they told the same stories to their children. These myths about the gods described how they were born and about their special powers, love affairs, and rivalries. Legendary Greeks, Zeus. Zeus was the sixth son of Rhea and the Titan Kronos. It was prophesied that Kronos would be overthrown by one of his children. To prevent this, Kronos swallowed every child born to him. Rhea, expecting her sixth child, fled to Crete and gave birth to Zeus. Afterwards, she wrapped a stone to look like a baby and tricked Kronos into swallowing the stone, rather than Zeus. Later, Zeus and his cousin Metis conspired to give Kronos a drug that made him throw up Zeus's siblings. Zeus and his brothers Poseidon and Hades drew straws to divide the world between them. Zeus became the supreme ruler of the heavens, Poseidon ruled the sea, and the underworld was ruled by Hades. Along with many of the other major Greek gods, Zeus resided on Mount Olympus. Zeus and his wife Hera had 4 children, but other children were born to Zeus as well, from his relationship with goddesses, nymphs, and mortal women. He was the father of Athena, Apollo, Alexander the Great, and the hero Heracles. According to one story, Hera was so angry at Zeus for his unfaithfulness that she left him. Zeus created a statue of wood, covered it with a veil, and presented it as his new wife. Hera, jealous of Zeus's new wife, attacked the statue before pulling off the veil to discover her husband's joke. When she saw that Zeus's bride was not a real woman, she laughed so much that she forgot to be angry. Activity. Supreme sales. Just as Nike uses the name of a Greek goddess for a product, other companies use names that you'll recognize from ancient Greek mythology as well. Think about Midas Mufflers, Olympus Cameras, Amazon.com, and Ajax Cleanser. Midas was a king who could turn all that he touched into gold. Ajax was a hero of the Trojan War, and the Amazons were a race of women warriors in Greek mythology. How would you use the Greek gods and goddesses and other ancient heroes to market a product? Heracles Gym. Bring out the Greek god in you. Bring this ad in when you join and receive a 10% discount. 100 Main Street, Anytown, USA 555-1234. Heracles Gym. Number 1. Think about the attributes of some of your favorite gods and heroes of ancient Greece. Heracles, for instance, was strong. He'd be a great representative for a gym. 2. Come up with a product that is well suited to the god you choose. You can either use a product that is already available to consumers or develop one of your own. 3. Think about how your god relates to the product and how he or she could be used to convince people that your product is the one to buy. 4. On poster board, create an advertisement. Include a slogan, a short saying about your product, an image of the product, and a picture of the god or goddess you're using in your ad campaign. Add any other information you think will help sell your product. 5. You can even take it further and write a 30-second TV or radio advertisement. Supplies, poster board, markers. Activity, creature, feature. Some of the demigods and famous creatures from the stories of ancient Greece were combinations of man and beast or otherwise different from human form. Medusa, with snakes for hair, was one. Others were Pegasus, the winged horse who sprang from the blood of Medusa when she was slain by Perseus, and Chiron, the centaur, with a human head and a torso on a horse's body. Triton was a merman, son of Poseidon and his mortal wife. Human down to his waist, Triton had the tail of a fish instead of legs. When gods and humans joined in creating offspring, anything could happen. You can create your own album of creatures that change with the turn of a page. 1. Use a 3-hole punch to punch holes along one 11-inch side of all 10 sheets of cardstock. 2. Use the ruler and pencil to divide the sheets into 3 equal sections. Each section should have one punched hole. Supplies: 10 8.5 by 11-inch sheets of white cardstock, 3-hole punch, ruler, pencil, scissors, markers, small binder. 3. Cut along these lines, making sure to keep the top, middle, and bottom sections together. Put the sections into the binder. You have a section for the head, torso, and legs of 10 creatures. 4. Before you begin drawing your creatures, you need to mark the paper so that all these parts will line up correctly. Make small marks about 2 inches apart at the same place on every piece of cardstock where the pieces meet. You can do this by first marking the top pieces, then, one at a time, flip the top and bottom sections out of the way and draw matching marks on each new section. Then flip the middle section and mark the next one to match the top and bottom marks. 5. Now you can draw different creatures. Just make certain that you draw a head on the upper section, a torso on the middle section, and legs and feet on the bottom, and that the body parts are aligned with the marks you made where the paper meets. 6. Once you've drawn all of your creatures, you can flip the pages and sections to create all kinds of unusual combinations.